Good day and welcome to another edition of In Depth with the Bengals. I'm Jerry Miller, voice of the Bengals, and we have a very special topic that we're going to talk about today with a very special group of individual Bengals who are on hand. Two of the people that are here today, and I don't know, Donna Hayes, who's the executive director of the Bengal Athletic Boosters, is here, and Steve Shack, who is the Associate Athletic Director for Media Relations. I know Steve probably doesn't want to take part in the conversation, and Donna, I will invite you if there's anything you want to chip in and add, you can do that. But we also welcome former ISU quarterback Jerry Dunn, who's currently living in Boise, former Bengal defensive player Louis Hurst, who also lives in the Boise area, former longtime sports information director, Glenn Alford, who is the brains of our group. Bill,
and this group is in trouble.
Bill Isley is the former student body president at Idaho State University, a local land developer in Pocatello. And Cal Percy is a former swimmer at Idaho State University. And Cal, you look like you just got off your motorcycle.
No, I didn't. I wear a headband a lot, keep the hair out of my eyes. So.
Well, as Jerry and Steve would probably agree, it's good to have that problem.
Oh, yeah, that's true. No, that's true.
We've got this group put together today because Saturday, September 26th is the 50th anniversary of basically, I guess you would call it the official opening of Idaho State University's Holt Arena. When it was first constructed, it was known as the ASISU Minidome. And all of these people on the screen have a connection to Holt Arena. I will never forget going to Holt Arena as a junior or senior in high school to watch the Bengals play basketball, and watching from the stands on the south side with that court down in the middle of the football field, and never did get a chance to see a football game there until 1982 when I came on board as voice of the Bengals. And it's been a great experience to attend games there ever since, both football and basketball, track and field. There have been just a ton of great events going on there. But we've got this illustrious group of individuals here because of their experiences and history with Holt Arena. And I think what we're going to do is, Bill, we're going to start with you. You were a student body president. You were also a member of the track and field team. And as a student at Idaho State University, do you have recollections of you first hearing about the creation of a Minidome?
Yes, I do. When I was student body president, that was after the hard work that had been done by the two previous student body presidents. I got to sweep in and be part of the ceremony dedicating it, but it was passed. There was a non-binding resolution passed by the student body 2 years previously, or it might have been 3 years previously, to self-fund the Minidome. It was non-binding, but we voted as students that our fees would go up, and I believe it was about $15 a semester to pay for the bond. State Board of Education took that into consideration and then went ahead and passed it to put that out. We first started hearing about it probably when I was a sophomore, that it was something that Debbie Holt and Babe Cascia, there was a football player, I forget his name, his first name was Joe, he was a fullback, and
Joe Clark.
Yeah. Clark. And his father was a man that built buildings and did a lot with steel, and they came up with the design.
Glenn Alford, you had come to Idaho State University not too many years before Holt Arena grew out of the ground. tell us your recollection from the administrative side, as you were the sports information director in the athletics department, about how this all came about from your perspective.
Well, the first thing was I was a 25-year-old kid with no experience doing anything except carrying a gun in the Army. And I got here, and all of a sudden my boss is talking about building a domed sports arena with indoor football in a town of 40,000 people. And that was my introduction to Pocatello. I was pretty skeptical, but I was a fly on the wall while all this was going on, and it started to take place, and all of a sudden all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, and it looked like a real possibility.
Kurt Cragthorpe, who is one of the children of Dave Cragthorpe, who coached the Bengals to a national championship in college football in 1981, is writing a series of articles for the athletic department about the creation of Holt Arena. And the first one, Steve released yesterday online. And of course, Milton W. Holt, the athletic director at the time, is the one whose brain cells came up with this idea of indoor football. And according to Kurt, there were a couple of reasons. One was because, of course, the weather in eastern Idaho during football season can become a little predictable during the season. Another one is that fall is prime hunting season in this part of the country as well. And according to Dubby, he was trying to figure out a way that he could solidify attendance at games and not lose people. And if they were able to play their games indoors at night, then people could ostensibly do everything they do on a Saturday and still come to a football game on a Saturday evening. Steve, Glenn, how does that settle with your recollections?
The first game, home game I had here was in 1967, and the game was going on, and all of a sudden a big part of the crowd got up and walked out the front of Davis Field, the Spud Bowl, and I found out later some guy had pulled up with a large deer in the back of a pickup truck, and everybody went out to take a look at it. So Kurt's recollection or research is correct.
Well, we're looking forward to reading more of his articles as well. Cal, what was your recollection at that time about how Holt Arena came about?
Well, I was pretty well informed in the athletic department through W, of course, and he had mentioned it, a couple of years prior, and I thought an indoor facility was a good idea, but I thought probably it might be something that might not be able to be done. And he got to work on it, and I think Bill's pretty close. I remember it was $19 a semester out of your fees, and he says 15. It could be between 15 and 19, but everybody voted on that, and it went through, and it was $19. So that we were going to pay for it, over time, and that's how they got it started. And Joe Clark's dad did come out here and start hiring people and getting the groundwork done, and that was a huge hole when they started. And we looked at that and thought, boy, this is going to be something down under the ground like that far down. And we thought this will be great. It was the first indoor football facility in the United States at the time at a college, and it was way ahead of its time, and it helped in recruiting. And a lot of athletes came here and saw what they could do, both in football, basketball, and track. It was great for the university. That's what I remember.
Hey,
Well,
Jerry.
Go
Cal,
ahead.
this is Bill Isley. Once and for all, did you or did you not ride your motorcycle over the steel beam when they were first installed?
Yeah, I rode across it. It was
Yep.
a nice day.
All right. I just wanted to get that on record because I thought that was the truth.
Yeah, and I think we've been doing a little research on it. I know Diane Olson had a picture of me on top on my bike on top of it. So
It was unauthorized.
yeah, it was unauthorized. All right, it was just something that we wanted to do because the beams were there and the form was going up, and thought, well, I'll just ride across it. And it was quite interesting. After that happened, the campus police pulled around, and I've told Glenn about this and tried to stop me. And I went down. It was all gravel in, no pine trees, no nothing. And I went down on 15th and then down to Buddy's. And I was in Buddy's when the Pocatello police showed up, wanted to know what I was doing and asked me if I'd rode over the dome. And I said, yes. And of course they said, well, we felt your bike. It's hot. So we're going to take you down to the police station. And they did, down there on 2nd. And I called Dubby. I said, hey, Dubby, I'm in trouble. I'm in the police station. What'd you do? And I told him. He came down and got me out. And then the following Monday, so this was on a Saturday morning about 11 when we did this. And they had me in the courtroom there, and the judge was asking me what I did and how did I plead. And I said, well, I'm guilty. I did what you said I did. And he said, well, this is a ticket for trespassing. And there was a lawyer in the courtroom at the time named Lou Racine, and he raised his hand, and the judge said, Mr. Racine. And Racine got up and he said, I don't know how you can give a trespassing ticket to a person that is paying to build that dome and owns it. How could you trespass if you're an owner? And the judge said, that's a very good point, Mr. Racine, and the case was dismissed.
And you've been a free man ever since, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't worry. I got my time in front of the school board and up in Boise on a few things, but it was fun. It was all in good fun. So.
Well, Bill, thanks for bringing that up. Well, that was a rumor that we definitely wanted to confirm today. And it's not just a legend about Holt Arena, as Cal is a legend, but it actually is the truth. Let's talk to a couple of guys who played football in that arena when it was first built. Jerry Dunn and Louis Hurst both live in the Boise area, both played football for the Bengals. Jerry, a renowned quarterback for the Bengals, who became known as the Throwing Idahoans, with his arm working its magic. And Jerry, talk about how you were recruited to Idaho State and your first experience with the Dome.
I was recruited as a freshman out of Boise High School by Jerry Dillinger, who Debbie Holt had asked him if he would coach a freshman team, because this was going to be the first year that the Big Sky Conference, that every team in the conference had a freshman program, so that we could compete as freshmen. Usually at that time as freshmen, you weren't eligible for varsity, so you were hamburger. And Jerry Dillinger said he'd do that if our team was kept separate from the varsity. And so we were. And I first heard about the Minidome after I'd gotten there when I was a freshman. And I spoke at a forum on it that year. So, but it was news to me, but it sounded like a heck of an idea. So that's how I came about.
So you spoke at a forum about the Minidome, or about its creation, I suppose. Do you recall what you talked about?
Well, it was open. It was in the student union, and they just asked people if they wanted to speak. And I talked in regards to what I felt it would do for the university. And a lot of that has been covered already this morning. So it just was exciting at that time, but not knowing what was going to happen and when it was going to come about.
Louis, let's find out from your perspective, your first experiences with hearing about the Dome and showing up in it.
It was a great experience. I was there a year behind Jerry, so it was in pretty much full swing time I got there. But after playing a couple of years in the old Spud Bowl in November, the thought of playing inside looked really good. And so it was just, and then the thought of the first covered stadium in the United States was overwhelming, really, to think about it. It turned out really well, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, as you can see, Louis, I've got a sweatshirt on, and it's because I played in the Spud Bowl for 3 years, and I'm still trying to get thawed out.
Yeah.
According to the article written by Kurt Cragthorpe, the first in his series, the building was scheduled to open, I believe, in late 1969 or at some point in 69. There was an iron or steel workers strike, which delayed construction somewhat. And the spring scrimmage for football was actually played inside the Minidome in 1970 in front of over 7,000 fans. And the first game actually was played against Nevada, Las Vegas, a program that had just started up. But there was a big problem between the spring game and the opening of the fall football season. Glenn, tell us a little bit about what happened at Holt Arena and why it looked like potentially the football season in the Dome could be delayed.
The water system in Holt Arena, the Minidome, sprang a leak, and the whole, just about 80% of the turf was covered in water up to, in some places, almost a foot deep. And that created a big problem because the turf was basically glued to a Resolite wrestling mat, which was the base of it, and which gave it some give. So when you landed, when being tackled, you didn't end up basically landing on concrete. And the glue that held the mat to the turf got loose in the water when the leak occurred. And so it was not just a matter of, we got to siphon this water out. They had to siphon the water, and then they had to bring in equipment to get the glue off of the turf. And that created a big problem, and also created our turf, original turf, had a shorter shelf life than it was supposed to because of the hard use that it got from this glue being stuck on it and having to be physically ground out, basically. They got that done, and the opening game proceeded on schedule.
That sounds like a huge job. Did any of you have any participation in that effort to clean up? Nope.
No, I think, Louis, didn't we roll that field up?
It seemed like we rolled something down, and we might have. I don't know.
I think we were, yeah, we rolled
I know
up.
it was full of dust, though.
Oh,
Full of
yes.
dirt. And then, yeah, we was all coughing and carrying on, and they just kept cleaning it and kept getting it out of there. I've always wondered, though, quick question. Did Cal have anything to do with that, trying to make a bigger swimming pool?
I know we went over and looked at it. It was above your knee deep.
Yeah.
Raiden Shipley and a couple of guys on the swim team, we went over there. We were going to try swimming in it, but we didn't do that. So that we thought that might be the first event, maybe a swim meet in the Dome. Yeah, that would have been fun.
Al was just happy that the Minidome got built so that all the football players went to the Minidome and left the gym to him.
Yeah.
Bill, what was your recollection as a student of, I'm sure you saw that water inside the Dome. Yes.
Yeah, it was a freaky thought just looking at it.
It was all hands on deck when that happened because we'd been building towards this for 3 years and more, and it was just ready to happen. And then it was an actual water main break. The big 8-inch water main broke, and it flooded it so fast it was incredible. But they got it ready, and the game happened.
Well, let's talk about the game after the spring game, the first real college football competition in the Minidome. And Louis, let's talk about your experience first of walking down into the arena with over 10,000 people there for that first home game.
That was pretty impressive for a kid from Bellevue. Even being at ISU, it was impressive. But that was a thrill going down that ramp and on that field. It's still, I still break up over it. It was great. It was great.
Jerry, as a quarterback, who most quarterbacks are the leaders of their teams and their offense, when you came down the ramp and saw over 10,000 people there, what went through your mind?
Well, I agree with Louis. It was a shock. I mean, you wanted to stop and stare and listen. The excitement, you could feel it in the dome. The crowd was like none other I'd played in front of before, and running out on there just made my chest swell with pride because it was so exciting. And it would get your adrenaline pumping too, believe me. Your juices were flowing.
If I were to ask you, Jerry, to tell us just a couple of highlights you remember from playing inside the Minidome, what comes to mind?
Well, that game naturally was very, very exciting, and then probably beating Idaho in there that same year, and then having a loss to Montana, but it was a great game, and it was just a fantastic facility to play in, to compete in, and it felt, as far as the spectator's point of view, that they were right there with you. But when you're playing, that impresses you at the beginning, but once you start getting hit, you don't hear anything, or you know what I mean? Your mind is on what you're out there to do. So
I'm curious, going from Davis Field, the grass, natural turf of Davis Field, to the artificial turf inside Holt Arena, how did that change the game?
Well, for me, the speed was unbelievable.
Go ahead, Louis.
Go ahead, Louis.
The biggest difference was the speed. Everything was so much faster. Your footing was so much better and lighter. The speed was incredible at how much it picked it up coming off of the grass turf all the time. That was one of the biggest things I noticed.
Jerry, for you, did you have to adjust your game at all?
Yeah, I had to slow down. Louis said I was too fast. But, I would agree with Lou. It was the speed that you felt like you were faster and lighter. I mean, it was amazing, the feeling that it gave you inside.
How, and Glenn, you may be able to chip in on this, but as a tool for the athletic department at Idaho State University, what did the Minidome become in terms of recruiting athletes and fans?
Well, for one thing, we had a talking point for recruiting. It was pretty hard to recruit people to the Spud Bowl. Jerry and Louie might talk about that maybe they came in spite of our football facility. But all of a sudden, we had this great indoor facility, and it was a great talking point in dealing with recruits. I'd like to go back. You mentioned the steel strike during the construction. There was about 6 months when there was no construction going on. The original plans for the Minidome did not include a press box. There was just no money. We ran out of money. And when the steel strike hit, Financial Vice President Bill Bartz took all the money that hadn't been paid to Allen Steel, invested it in short-term municipal bonds, and made enough money to build 2 press boxes and pave the parking lot. We'd probably still be driving on dirt if it hadn't been for that steel strike.
However, there wasn't enough money to install restrooms, right?
No, and I'm still 50 years later, I'm hoping.
Trust me, I'm hoping too. When you get to a certain age, it's a rough run down those steps to the concourse level, stand in line to get into the restroom at halftime, and then shoot back up again to continue your broadcast. So I'm sure I'm not the first one that's tried to think of alternative ways to solve that problem. Let's talk about some of the memorable moments that all of you remember, either as a participant or as a fan watching something that has happened inside the Minidome. Louis, let's start with you. We kind of touched on that with you and Jerry, but even maybe after your playing days, give us 1 or 2 memories you have of watching something remarkable happen inside the Minidome.
Well, there were a couple of things. The Ike and Tina Turner concert. That was a good one. The other thing was they had Jim Ryan in there trying to break the 4-minute mile or whatever. They had a light system set up around the indoor track in there, and he was running against the lights. He didn't break the record, but you talk about 4 minutes of excitement. It was fun watching him. Those 2 things are probably as stand out as much as anything for me. Jerry
Dunn, from your recollections, outstanding moments inside the Minidome.
Oh, there were a lot of them. And I would say that watching the 81 national championship team play in there were a lot of outstanding moments in that particular season. Concerts, like Louis said, were very, very nice in there. It was just such a large facility. It would, again, draw a big crowd because they would also have seating on the turf. And I know they had problems with that because people would be smoking and it'd melt the turf in spots. But yeah, the whole facility is just very impressive.
Anything you speak of concerts, I understand from reading Kirk Cragthorpe's article that there was an agreement when the students voted to pay more of their student fees towards retiring the bond for the Minidome, that part of the agreement was that they would be able to attend concerts for just the cost of $1. Bill, does that ring any bells in your memory?
Oh, yeah, but it wasn't an agreement. It was an assistance. The first year, there was so many things to work out. 2 things about concerts. One is that at the Ike and Tina Turner concert, I was down on the turf, and then everybody's in the stands, and when the lights were on, people from the stands were trying to get on the turf, and what they had done to do crowd control to start with is they used the people that were in the VOTEC How to Be a Policeman program. They were all in there, but the problem was that they had their guns. So I don't even know if they'd been checked out on guns or not, but they're carrying these guns on their hips, and we're looking at that, and everybody's going to wait a minute. So we have meetings afterwards, and the very next week, the Black fraternity, I think it was Kappa Psi Epsilon or something, they become the crowd control people. They were students, no guns, and everybody respected and liked them, and that worked much better. Those you'd have 15,000 people at one of those concerts, unheard of in Pocatello. But the $1 a ticket was we said, as a student government, we said, we're paying for the facility. We want our students in there for every event. So we said $1 a ticket. The people that put the concerts on kind of pushed back on it a little bit. We showed them that if you had 6,000 or 7,000 more people at $1, that was better than having a half sold out venue. And for the next 2 years, they were always $1. As you notice now, this price with everybody else.
So Bill, personally, in all the years that you've attended events at the Minidome, Holt Arena, what are a couple of the outstanding memories you have?
The 81 season, I enjoyed that very much. I also enjoyed the track. It was a very, very fast track, and they set all kinds of records. The Simplot games, we got to watch a lot of track people who were Olympians on the track. And high school football, the very first year, Highland and Pokey were going to play in there, but they were going to get charged the $1,500 to clean the Minidome afterward. So both principals came in and talked to me and says, can you get that waived for us? And I says, well, I can't do that. But what we'll do is the student, ASISU will pay your fee for you. Play the game, keep the whatever you get, and then we'll just split the proceeds. So if nobody goes to the game, well, it doesn't cost you anything. So they said, okay, that's great. So they have the game and they have 9,500 people in the stands. So they're due to make $9,500 or $10,000. And they come in to me again and say, well, about that 50-50 thing, you don't want to do that. And we said, I'm sorry, but probably next year you'll do it on your own. Split proceeds. And they went on. They made so much more money by playing in the Minidome than they ever would have. It was just a big difference.
Bill, that's a great piece of history. Thanks for that. Cal, I'm sure you've had some memorable moments inside Holt Arena, even though you didn't swim when that flood happened.
Well, you know, you talk about concerts and everything. I remember one of the things I went to that I really liked was the Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier fight. They had it on a screen in there, and it had a big crowd. We all went to it. It was great, you know. And you know, they've had some great concerts up there. They had Bob Dylan. I went to that and thought it was wonderful. And you know, the things that go on in there, the Simplot games, they've always been good. And we've seen a lot of young athletes that have become Olympians in the United States participate in that program at the Simplot Games. And then one thing that really stood out that made a lot of money for the area was the rodeo. And Dubby was dead set against having a rodeo in the Minidome. You know, he said, no, we're not having that. And boy, the guys got together downtown and the groups, and they brought all that dirt in. I couldn't believe the dump truck loads of dirt, and they brought it in. And I thought to myself, this is going to be a mess. And boy, as soon as the rodeo was over, and they had the world-class participants in the Dodge National Finals, and they got in there and cleaned it up. It was cleaner than before they put the dirt in it every time. They made a great deal of work to put that together. It was fantastic.
Cal, thank you. My association at ISU began in 1982 when I began broadcasting football games. Of course, timing is everything, and mine isn't very good, as I came the year after the national championship and have seen a small number of winning seasons with Bengal football, but I have some great recollections of events and things that have happened at Holt Arena, but I know I have nothing compared to those that Glenn Alford has. And Glenn, share with us maybe 4 or 5 of the outstanding, most memorable athletic experiences that you've witnessed in Holt Arena in all of your years since you became one of the Bengals.
First, I'm going to mention a concert. I have 10% hearing in my right ear, and I attribute that to the ZZ Top concert. It was so loud, I came out of there partially deaf. Of course, the 1981 football season, the win over Weber State, that was an incredible experience, just being there, watching that game and all the games in 1981. The 1977 basketball team, the run to the Elite Eight started with a home win over Long Beach State in the first round of the NC2A playoffs. Louis mentioned Jim Ryan. That first professional track meet was held in Holt Arena, and Brian Oldfield, a shot putter in a Speedo, running part of the 400-meter relay with they had a weight man's relay team. It's really hard to pick out one or two things. There have been so many that have been so great. Watching Stacy Dergila, the ground floor of her run to the Olympics started in Holt Arena. So just been so many things.
Well, just a couple of things that I could mention. I had the great blessing and privilege of being able to announce the Globe of Death football game win over Boise State. And one of the most gratifying moments of my life was looking down to the other end of the press box after the Bengals scored the go-ahead and winning touchdown, and looking at the crestfallen faces of the Boise State broadcasters who were in total disbelief about what had happened. And that's something I will never forget. I also had the opportunity to broadcast statewide a high school championship football game between Highland and a team from the Boise area team. So, and in terms of concerts, I remember a John Denver concert there when he had laryngitis, and I couldn't even tell he had a problem at all. But Holt Arena continues to serve Eastern Idaho and the state of Idaho as the host site for some great events. And I'll have to admit, besides the rodeo, probably the most consistent and well-drawing event ever held there is the Monster Truck Show. And by a show of hands, who's attended one of those? There you go. And generally, there's not a seat available when that Monster Truck Show comes. But we want to be able to stick around long enough to see Bengal football become known as the Monster Truck Show, and see the Bengals rip through the rest of the Big Sky, and it'll be fun to watch them play there. It's going to be a different experience to see the Bengals play football in Holt Arena in the spring against competition as opposed to in the fall. A question I wanted to ask everybody, and Glenn, you and I have referred to the lack of a restroom at the press box levels, but let's go around the horn. And if there was anything different that you would have done about Holt Arena, what would it be? And I think I'll start. Donna, I'm going to ask you to chip in here with an answer to that question while everybody else runs that through their mind.
Okay, so first of all, Jerry, a couple little known facts. My favorite memory was the Three Dog Night concert because there was a streaker that ran across the field. And that was my first experience for that. But you don't know this, but Glenn will remember, I used to be a spotter for football. So I used to go up to that press box, and I feel your pain there going down to the restrooms. And then also the 77 tournament, I was a runner for Glenn. So I've had some great experiences. But yes, okay, so I would add an elevator. How's that? I would have done that years ago.
Boy, I will second that. Bill Isley, if there was one change you could make to Holt Arena, what would it have been?
'Cause, 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 You know, I don't think I'd have changed anything. The impact of Holt Arena was actually nationwide. Being the first covered facility on a college campus, it showed and I think surprised all of us the how broad the appeal was. I mean, I don't think any of us thought that we were going to be putting 15,000 people in there when the biggest concert in Pocatello previous to that was probably 4,000. I don't think we were going to have 9,000 at an indoor track meet, 10,000 at a Highland Pokey game, the rodeo. You just go on and on. Everything seemed to be bigger than what anybody expected. And it was so successful, not just for football, which was its intended purpose. They weren't even thinking necessarily basketball to start with. The track came about because we got some money from somewhere. But as other campuses started doing that, they didn't have any doubt in their mind that it was a multi-purpose facility that would add money to their bottom line and add people and be just something that the whole community that they build it in would benefit from. And so you got to go down a couple of stairs. You know, you weren't even going to have a press box to start with, so you'd have been announcing from the top row of seats. But I just can't think of anything that I would have done different on it.
Thank you, Bill. Cal Percy, how about you?
Well, I think that they should have done it years ago, was they should have put some deluxe seating in for the people that buy season tickets that have for years since it's opened. You know, they should have maybe got a little section in there and made different types of seats in there. The seats are, although adequate, they're not great. And anybody that sits through a whole game in a seat knows what it's like. So I'd say that would be one of the things that I would look at doing or changing. And I might add one other thing. All of us have been in the state since we got out of Idaho State, and we all know the Minidome or Holt Arena. And one of the most satisfying things that I've done is help out young athletes come to Idaho State and play in the Minidome. Dave Muniz and I were coaching the Blackfoot High School, and Billy Snap was on the team. And we got Bill to go down to Idaho State, and he became one of the best linebackers Idaho State's ever seen. And then, you know, this kid, Josh Hill from Blackfoot that went there. We've had some great athletes from the state of Idaho, and it's made the Minidome better than what it could have been if it had just been run the way that the student body wanted to do it. I mean, all these things, these concerts, rodeos, the monster trucks, everything we've had in there is a plus. And the more we can put through there and the more we can use it. Of course, we're going to have to put some money into maintenance and keep it up and everything, but it's a highlight of Pocatello, one of the best highlights Pocatello has ever received. And the use of it is phenomenal for this area.
Thank you, Cal. Louis, how about you? We'll pose the same question.
You know, I don't know. There was a lot of talk right after it was built about adding, they should have added locker rooms and things for the students so they could use it more. But the field was so limited, I don't know how much more they could have used. They was talking about putting racquetball courts under the stadium and doing some things like that, which would have been very expensive and no revenue to return on them. But other than that, I don't know that there's not much to change. It was too good at the time.
Jerry Dunn.
Well, there's a few people there that I would agree with. Well, probably all of them. But as far as I felt and still feel, the Minidome is just a tremendous, tremendous facility. And it has been a great draw for the university. And I don't believe that I would have changed a lot with it. I know they've done things here and things there with the locker rooms and the weight rooms and that type of thing. But still, as far as just an overall facility, it's outstanding.
Saturday, September 26th, the marks the 50th year of the first football game ever played at ISU's Minidome, now called Holt Arena. Glenn Alford, you've probably been more intimately associated with Holt Arena than anybody around here and anybody in our conversation today throughout the years. I'm going to ask you to talk about, from your perspective, the legacy of Holt Arena and what it's meant not just to Eastern Idaho or Idaho State University, but to the entire Intermountain region.
First of all, Phil Lucky might argue with you about who's been more intimately involved with Holt Arena. There's just been so much. It's been pointed out by almost everybody who's spoken. All of the events that have been held in there that would be unthinkable to be held in Pocatello or anywhere in Southeast Idaho without a facility like Holt Arena. Can you imagine having that monster truck show in March outdoors? Might be having a monster truck show in a sleet storm. Where are you going to put Ike and Tina Turner to attract 10,000 people in Pocatello without Holt Arena? Let alone all the sporting events. The high schools have got great use of it. The community's got great use out of it. Its legacy is that everybody in this part of the country has benefited from it.
Well, as we wrap this up, each and every one of you has contributed to the legacy of the ASISU Minidome. From Bill Isley as a student body officer and president and a member of the track and field team, to Cal Percy, who rode his motorcycle over the top of Holt Arena on a steel beam, to Jerry Dunn, who helped coin the phrase of throwing Idahoans, who also was a member of the track team, if I remember, Louis Hurst, who, you know, I had another great opportunity to call a game that linebacker Mike Callie played in, where he had 22 tackles in a game and was named the Sports Illustrated National Football Player, College Football Player of the Week. And then I go on and read about Louis Hurst, who had 26 tackles in one game during his career at ISU. And that is just incredible for me to believe. I look at Donna Hayes, who has worked tirelessly to help raise money to put new football locker rooms and bring so many improvements to ISU's Minidome / Holt Arena. To Glenn Alford, who is a legend in my mind. He talked about coming to ISU when he was 25. I was as green could be when I came to announce games at ISU in '82. And any success that I've had in that department rests a lot on the shoulders of Glenn, who mentored me through those early years. And even though he hasn't said a word today, Steve Shack, who has filled Glenn's shoes, going, I don't even know how long you've been around, Steve, at least back to 2008, I think, but if not sooner. But each and every one of you have left an indelible mark on what we now call Holt Arena and what began as the ASISU Minidome. And I want each and every one of you to know it is an absolute honor and a privilege to be sitting here with all of you as we've had this discussion about this incredibly great facility. And we hear people complain about this and that. But if, from my point of view, if a lack of restrooms in the press box level was the only shortcoming it had, then it is indeed a wonderful facility. Jerry Dunn, thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from Boise.
Well, thank you, Jerry. It's been an honor.
Louis, also, Louis Hurst from the Treasure Valley as well. Good luck on the salmon fishing.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Will do.
Bill Isley, whose photo hangs in the hallway at the Pond Student Union building in the row of student body presidents. It's a great experience to be able to have you in our conversation today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And my hair was much longer in that photo.
That's true. Cal Percy, always a pleasure to hear not just about you, but from you. And it's great to have you in our conversation today as well.
Well, I'm glad I could talk about it. It was a great facility and a great idea, and it really worked out fine.
Glenn, I think you know personally how I feel about you, and I've expressed that. We are blessed to have you in our lives, and we're glad that you're still here and you decided to stay. And your legacy at ISU, at least to some of us, will be every bit as great as that of the ASISU Minidome. Thank you today.
Thanks, Jerry.
Donna Hayes, thanks for all your work and doing everything you can to help improve things at the facility in whatever steps that we're able to get it done.
Thanks, Jerry, and thanks everybody for participating. It's really been a lot of fun sharing these memories, and you did bring me to tears. So thanks, Louie. You brought me to tears also. Have a great day, you guys.
All right, will do.
Steve Shack, thank you for organizing this. That does it for another edition of In Depth with Bengal Athletics. Thanks to all of you for being here today. I'm Jerry Miller.